Hello, and welcome to episode 28. My name is Ross.
And I'm Craig.
It's time to put the kettle on because it's tea time. I put a bit of sugar in today, and it's glorious. Should do it more often.
Oh, I've got strawberry tea.
What? Why?
I had a spare bag.
That much time was I mean? Like 2 degrees outside. What the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, it's just that I had a spare bag.
Well, you don't want to be left.
I used the last of milk, and I couldn't be bothered to take the thing off the top of the milk. So
Fair enough. Right. Well, I think I should probably start with a bit of an apology for failing last week. Real problems, normal people's problems. I just couldn't multitask. Basically, I have I now have my son during the week, so I couldn't do both. So I apologise for those that were desperately waiting for the episode last week, only to be disappointed by my tardiness. So yeah, I humbly apologise. Anyway, episode 28. Are we on now? That's what I just said, wasn't it? Yes, good. So let's start with some news, and it's me to start, isn't it? So let's get through what we've got. So yes, it features regularly in the show, hydrogen. Guess what? It seems they finally put it two together, right? You've got this ability to produce electricity away from the ground, away from the people, away from the the normal society. It's called offshore wind, and it blows whenever it blows, but sometimes it produces more than we need. And then you have to carry that on a cable back to the land to make use of it, or to put into a battery. Or seems like someone's finally caught on. You could use the excess energy out there in the sea and do your electrolysis and produce your hydrogen directly from the water that's flowing around you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, I could have sworn we'd already thought of that one, but all right. Anyway, if we hadn't, then well done them. So this was a BBC article that was out last week. Its wind generation in the UK has now reached its highest ever level. It's now producing 17.2 gigawatts. Or at least it had done by the end of last year. So it achieved its largest share of UK energy production at 60% on the 26th of August. And then it talks about how sometimes it pumps out more energy than it actually needs. And so what if you could use it, blah, blah, blah. We've already talked about that. But yeah, got this nice little diagram here. It's basically a turbine in the sea, anchored to the seabed. You put solar panels on the upper deck of the thing that the turbine is tied to, the bit that's on the surface. Those solar panels produce electricity alongside the turbine. Both of those are used to power the electrolyzer unit, which takes the seawater in from around it and pumps out hydrogen. And that's it, really. But it's finally, I think, a sensible use of that sort of technology. Also, in terms of offshoreness, Boris Johnson has decided that what we need is a new tunnel. Obviously, we don't like Europe anymore, so we don't want another Channel tunnel. No, we want to go the other way. So they're going to build, or they're talking about building. I'm not sure it's actually official plans yet, but to go from Scotland to Northern Ireland, who is still a member of the UK. So we still like those people. So yeah, let's talk about building a new tunnel. This tunnel will actually have a larger underground water section than that of the old Channel tunnel. at 25 miles long.
Mm.
All we know at the moment is it will help to unblock some trade, and it could get authorized as early as next month, but we don't know yet. But that would be cool. Although I can't, like, obviously we've got, because we cover Elon Musk a fair bit, and he's got the Boring Company. I don't suppose he's going to get asked to do it, is he? I think they're going to have these large tubular sections that they're just going to sort of drop in to place, and then I don't know how they do the next bit after that. Send some divers down. I don't know how that works, but it's going to be one of those sort of things as opposed to just bore a hole between the two. I do feel like that might be worth looking at, though, if I was Boris. Appreciate it's quite deep, but surely that's got to be better than, I don't know, maybe the pressure of having all that water above. Yeah, I don't know. But that's on the cards anyway.
That sounds pretty cool.
Also, in the news, I like this one. This one's fun. Honda has got a new patent, or patent if you are medically inclined, for a bike, an electric motorcycle. And if that wasn't cool enough, an electric motorcycle with a drone in the back. So in the tail of the vehicle, it's supposed to come out of there. So I'll pull that one up for you to have a look at as well, because that's pretty awesome. Again, I'll try and explain it for those listening to my voice drone on. Drone on. Sorry. So look, this is the picture. Basically, it's just a terrible drawing of a bike, really, but it looks like a pizza box is on the back, but it's actually a little expanding quadcopter, which seems to fly out of the back. Now, according to the article, they don't know what Honda are actually considering here. Apparently, they've got plenty of how, but not much why. So yeah, it's all these diagrams, and they look very lovely, but essentially, it is just a pizza-shaped quadcopter on the back of a bike. Now, why on earth would you want that?
I don't know, but I mean, just as a thing for those who can't see the imagery, are we sure this isn't just a normal motorbike with a camping stove on the back?
As in, at what point do we know it's actually a drone?
Yeah, does it actually say it's a drone?
I mean, it's describing the blades in the diagram. So, yes, okay, it could be an expanding four-hob.
It just looks like
Honda's
preparing for the Mad Max days where we're going to need bikes with camping stoves to survive in the desert.
If it is a camping stove, one would have to question why it's hovering above this car. I don't know why they brought a car in.
Does it come with Wi-Fi? That's pretty cool.
What? So, oh dear, I can't get enough internet, so I'm going to have a drone follow me around to give me.
I mean, I saw that image and I thought that was a satellite. I thought that was some Starlink thing.
So here's an interesting thing. It says that the problem is that the electric motorcycle depicted in the pattern is obviously a sports bike, but no drone like the one seen in the diagram is going to be able to keep up with such a bike when traveling at speed. Yeah. Oh, and don't get me started in the precarious docking procedure while roaring along an open road. So it's a very odd thing. I don't know what the benefit of mixing a drone with a bike is particularly. So, okay, so you could charge the thing. Great. But a motorbike's already, it's not like it's going to do the last mile delivery for a big truck. That makes sense. Or one of those, I don't know if you've seen the Amazon drone ship. What do you call it? The one that thing that floats around, like the Hindenburg type thing. Airship thing. It floats around and then drones fly out of it. That makes sense because you've got last mile delivery. You want to get it to the actual, but a bike's pretty accessible. It can pretty much go anywhere anyway. So what's the purpose of the drone? I'd like to know. If anyone's got any ideas, please put them in the comments below because I just can't think of one.
No, I mean, it feels like it could have some sort of police usage, perhaps. kind of police biker pulls up, stops, uses the drone to survey the scene or something.
Oh, right. Yes. Do the police have sports bikes?
I don't know. And that's not really the question, is it? The question is, do they want sports bikes?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a better use of it. Yeah. Okay. So sort of filming the scene after the biker stops, because as I say, you can't follow the bike anyway.
I can't imagine it happening in transport now.
No. Okay, so that's that one. Also in the news, we have Jaguar. I was watching Tesla Daily, basically Americans trying to say Jaguar. No, sorry. Jaguar.
Murder it.
Jaguar. Anyway, Jaguar. They are going supposedly all electric. As Britain's answer to Tesla. Was that in the article, or was that something that you added into the thing?
No. This is the article on the Times.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember reading that bit before. Britain's answer to Tesla. No. Anyway, the Jaguar is to recreate itself as the Tesla of the West Midlands and become a fully electric manufacturer within 4 years. It will involve scrapping the current Jaguar range, apart from the I-Pace, obviously, because it's the only one they have. Its much featured battery model, and closing the Castle Bromwich factory near Birmingham as a car manufacturing plant. Jaguar Land Rover's Indian owners Tata Motors intend Jaguar to be an all-electric brand by 2025. Now, I don't think that's actually what they said, though, is it? I think was some interpretation going on in there. I don't know if it's got the exact quote that they've got from Jaguar. No, I don't think it does. But what I believe they actually said was something on the lines of, we would be looking to start producing all electric cars by 2024. So that by 2025 they were all electric. But I don't think I think they were going to still carry on selling the ones they've already got or whatever up until the point of 2030 or 2035, whenever basically it was worded in such a way that it made it look like they were going all electric, but actually, yeah, they're going all electric by the point that they have to. So it wasn't. Yeah. So my sister's got a Range Rover. So she is super excited about having an electric one, but she also wants an electric. What can't I think of the word? What about a roof? What do you call that?
Convertible.
Convertible. Thank you. Which I can't see them make. I can't see anyone making for some time, because it's all about efficiency and stuff, and obviously having no roof on it makes it aerodynamically horrific. But yeah, I don't think anyone who's got a Land Rover should be too excited by this information. I don't think it's going to be happening anytime soon. If they start making it by 2025, well, good luck. They're then getting anything remotely decent by 2035. So, you know, that's that news. It sounds better than it is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavily worded. I mean, Britain's answer to Tesla, and then it goes on to say it's going to be the Tesla of the West Midlands. So
smaller.
it's a lot smaller, but I mean, arguably, who else builds cars in Britain? That's a British, well, not even a British brand anymore. That's an ex-British brand. Who else is there?
There is more car news from Ford. Because not just Land Rover. Oh no. Ford are also going to an electrified future. Okay. Newsflash. Everyone is going to an electrified future. In case you hadn't realized this yet. Every single car manufacturer, if they're going to survive in the next 10 years, will have to go electric. So all these news articles going, we're going electric. Yeah, obvs. Anyway, obviously Ford are American, so we should bear that in mind. So, but it's going all in on all electric future by at least 2030. I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. Ford doesn't exist by 2030. Just saying. So by 2026, the company is aiming for all of its passenger vehicles to be capable, listen to the words carefully here, capable of zero emission in driving. Capable. Okay. So what that actually means is that they will all have they'll be at least hybrid, and that maybe you're able to go 10 miles in zero emission, completely no fossil fuels. But obviously no one's going to do that because you can't drive anywhere for 10 miles without thinking, I'm going to run out of juice soon. So it's going to get used very, very, very rarely. So yeah, you've got to be really careful with these words because they will try and make a lot of doing something and not.
But given another word, sorry, you said they're going to roll out by 2030.
Yeah.
Only in Europe. There's no plans to do the same in the US. I assume they will, but there's no rush.
Well, not until Biden decides to put in some new legislation or something to force them to. No. Basically, yeah, they're all doing it in Europe because we have rules that say that you're going to have to. So everyone's saying, yeah, Europe's more adopting, but it's just if you cared at all, if they actually cared about the planet, whatever they would do, then they would make it electric everywhere. The fact that they only do it in Europe is because they have to do it in Europe because we'll ban diesel cars or petrol cars at some point in the not near future. So similar things for their commercial vehicles, capable again of zero emissions by 2024. So yay, go and buy a Ford hybrid van. Don't do that. That would be a stupid idea. Just wait until someone's brave enough to give you an electric van and buy that one instead. And that is all the beautiful, wonderful, positive news I have. So, Craig, do you have any for you for the group?
I do. I have a bunch of little pieces. They're all quite little, so I'll fly through them. First one is just a rumor, but it's an interesting rumor. Amazon potentially is developing its own digital currency project. So this has been gleamed by job listings that Amazon's been posting, specifically for product engineers working on converting cash into digital currency. So that would be quite cool, I think. That might make it in the region of maybe 9,000 cryptocurrencies by that point. But I think Amazon, if anything, has a good shout of making it quite successful, like the Amazon coin. Would be quite interesting.
Yeah. Just as another
way how that works.
Pay tax. Is this so they can now open up new markets that don't have American currency, so they can just transfer all the money to somewhere else in Bitcoin, basically, and skip the whole taxing. They are very good at that.
They seemingly do, given the fact that, as we mentioned last time, best quarter ever of was it 200 billion in sales?
Oh,
absolutely ridiculous. But it's not only Amazon in the digital currency field. There's also a couple of countries. So we mentioned China previously. However, the next country looking to be the first country to have an entirely digital cryptocurrency is Russia.
Russia. Okay.
I mean, India might be there too soon, but Russia is kind of racing China to be the world's first country to have an entirely digital ecosystem. So that's been quite cool. And creatively enough, they're going to call it the digital ruble. So they decided to put digital in front of their currency, like the digital pound. It's like anything, a bit more imaginative, perhaps.
But the Russians. I just offend an entire nation there, but I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Really. Oh well.
Maybe edit that part out. There's lots of Russian hackers and stuff.
Well, creatively get into my computer. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is only a concept right now. They are trying to bypass local banks and the whole financial watchdog. But given the fact that it's kind of a communist country-ish like China, imagine that's just a a thing you say, whereas underneath you can't say this is what you do. Russia's central bank has revealed its plans, and they revealed their plans October last year. So this isn't new. This is something they've been planning for some time. But ultimately, let's see what they do. Let's see how they go about doing this.
Just look at someone, like I said, I think I said before, like someone just wants to get an edge, don't they? Someone just wants to go, right, does this give us more possibility to trade somewhere that we can't trade at the moment easily? And therefore, if we get a competitive advantage, we'll do it. And why not? Because if you're in 5th place, 6th place, whatever, in terms of the world economies, may as well give it a bash, isn't it?
I mean, pretty much. Well, I mean, why go lose, really? And I think the whole digital cryptocurrency trend is massive right now, which is a good thing that, we see countries getting on board. It would be nice to see Britain do something similar. Anyway, moving on. Next, we have a novel way of generating electricity with stretchy bands. And effectively, they take body heat to power gadgets. So this is an entirely different way of thinking about self-healing, eco-friendly devices. For example, like a Fitbit on your wrist could now be powered, charged, just from body heat, which is pretty cool.
How's that? I mean, we've had kinetic watches for ages, but I guess that's not enough power, is it?
No, I mean, I don't know how much power a Fitbit would use, but the stuff they're talking about is like heart rate monitors for runners. That type of stuff can literally stick pad on, use your body heat to keep running, take it off, turns off. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of University of Colorado, so it's a US thing. And these are just thermoelectrical generators, which convert heat into electricity. So generic sort of stuff, but tiny enough and embedded enough that these can fit into tiny little film sort of thin, flexible tubes. Which basically like little wires that can go into almost any gadget, and little elastic bands kind of go around.
I like it.
So they're talking about stretchable, worn on arms, legs, fingers. So you can imagine like a little electric ring, a little LED in it if you wanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That type of new fashion trend could be a thing.
Yeah, like it.
So like mood rings that actually light up.
It seems to be more and more of these films coming out, like that can do different things based on whether it's light, heat, just different coverings for things. Just feels like you should be able to, at some point, just go, like I've got this part of my house, the drain pipe. I just want to cover it in this, and this, please. Thanks very much. And then now you've got power coming out of your drain pipe.
Yeah, put everything in there.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's all going to come together at some point. Super cool technology. Anyway, moving on to electric vehicles. So Scotland, which is an awesome country, has the largest collection of EV chargers, which are free in the entire UK.
Wow.
So this is based on SatMap's findings that there are 4,900 free-to-use electric chargers. I have no idea there were so many, which is quite good. And 1,334 of those, roughly 30%, is in Scotland. And the rest is kind of spread out everywhere else.
Well, the only ones that aren't working properly. They lost connection to their servers, so they have to give it for free.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're counted in the free survey use, but but yeah, given its population of only 5.5 million, it has double the number of electric chargers than England, which is, given half the population, quite amazing, really.
Yeah.
So it does seem that there's a lot of catching up to be done in the UK in general. We want to get our infrastructure ready for the inevitable electric vehicle.
I still think it's going to be a very odd journey, that one, because on the one hand, we're going to start off by needing lots of car parks to have these bays in them. And then that's going to transition to actually, we don't really want them in public car parks like that. We just want them in we just want them in people's houses, and we want them in office blocks, and we want them in, the places that people go. Well, also then there's going to be less car parks anyway, because if we start moving towards this idea of robo taxis or things like that, then we're not going to need the car parks, and then we're not going to need the chargers in the car parks. We're going to need some depots for those cars to go to. I just think it's going to be interesting how they're all going to flood in, and then they're going to flood back out again to go somewhere else. Especially if we move to like that wave technology where it's like just a pad that you park on, and then we won't need the big boxes anymore. So I think it's going to be a weird journey for people that produce chargers. Good luck to them.
It does. We discussed this before too, but the whole rent everything idea. I think the idea that we won't own a car in the future, I think that's going to take a lot of change in minds. But it makes perfect sense that maybe the street will own 2 or 3 cars, perhaps, maybe. And you don't take in turns, or you just literally call up an Uber or something, and that's it.
I can't see the street one working where people have to actually coordinate with their neighbors. That's not happening.
Via an app.
Oh, okay. So an Uber. I just call it.
Yeah, you haven't got to talk to anyone.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it worked then.
I was thinking as an intermediary thing, we can move away from 1 car per house to maybe 1 car per street or something. I don't know. Right. Maybe that's an intermediary step.
Yeah.
Which a lot of suburbs might opt for that because they don't really need to go far anyway. And given the fact that we all work remote now, maybe we just kill the car entirely. Who needs it?
Although I do, part of me still thinks that the Archimotos and the Apteras of the world, both of them are like these little 3-wheeler things. I can kind of see that being the car that people own, because it's like the fun utility vehicle in the case of Archimoto, and Aptera is the one where you don't have to plug it in ever. It's just solar powered. Those are the ones I could see people owning on their driveways, because they're the ones that you just pop to Tesco's in those when it's more shopping than you can be bothered to carry home. It's the tiny little thing that you go out, and then the bigger cars are used for carrying multiple people in quality with entertainment and screens and all that sort of stuff. But people start owning these little vehicles. I know I would love to own an Aptera, a solar powered one, mostly because of the journey I do to collect my son. I would never need to plug it in ever, because I only really use it once a week. That would be ultimate for me. It'd be amazing. Or the Archimoto for the Tesco run that I just I just want to nip to Tesco's. You want something that's just you could put 3 or 4 of them on your driveway. I don't know why you would, but if you lived in a house where you've got multiple adults, it's not one car in the driveway. You can put both there. They're small, they're tiny, they're fine. So that would be another interesting problem for the infrastructure to deal with.
Yes, I'm talking of infrastructure. Next piece of news is EVs may get hit with a new tax. Maybe as soon as next week. We don't know.
Really?
But certainly sooner rather than later. So Rishi Sunak, our Chancellor, he's currently got this problem of people are buying more electric cars. I think Tesla was probably the biggest selling car in the UK maybe this year, in the last year.
Yep.
Which is mad considering you can't really go anywhere. But the idea right now is government's tax duty comes a lot from petrol. Half of the price of petrol is tax. So when you buy an EV, you are effectively saving, on average, about £600 a year in tax, which is just mad.
Yep.
So obviously, every EV user is taking 600 quid a year from the government. And so far, they haven't really done anything. But I think they get to the point now where they're suggesting that they're going to have to start doing something. And we don't really know what that's going to be yet. But other countries like Denmark have already started suggesting that the electric vehicles system, which is just increasing actually, ready to weigh 904 million from its welfare system per year. So you can see how this starts to add up.
Yeah.
So
I would argue that it would probably be saved by the NHS. All the articles going out at the moment about how many people dying from actual pollution that we didn't even know about. They'd save it, although then we'd obviously have more people alive, which might be a different problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's catch-22 whatever happens. I mean, if they just straight up die, then it's not an NHS problem. Obviously, they get ill for a long time. So that's the cost.
Yeah. Although, for the record, I said it before. I agree. I should be taxed, just not the same. Just something linear.
Not the same, no.
Something linear to my usage of the roads would make sense to me.
I think a road tax just makes sense, yeah, because the roads still need to be upkept. Doesn't matter what vehicle you drive. Something like along those lines should do something. But like you said, like, yeah. Or even it's just using the motorways. You pay for using the motorway or something.
Oh, great. I don't use those.
But, you might one day. So Rishi Sunak is planning the UK's budget. It's going to be announced next week, March the 3rd. And hopefully we find some clues from that spring budget. If it is interesting, that's going to be my topic next week, covering that budget and what's been announced and how it impacts the UK. If it isn't, we'll say nothing more of it. Another thing's happening in the UK is that judging, I think it was the Supreme Court, have now ruled against Uber and all its gig workers. It's effectively saying, sorry, but you have to treat them all like employees, which is kind of a big hit. So they have to now be workers rather than contractors, which legally speaking gives them a lot more rights than they did. So the whole idea of a gig worker, in the UK at least, may be coming to an end, which is kind of mad because you think of the industries which use gig workers. You've got Uber, Deliveroo, Just Eat, all these type of things where people just jump on for the gig. And I think it's a really cool system personally where, let's say you was bored, you can go deliver for Deliveroo or Just Eat or something. If like an hour on a Tuesday, you don't go do any more than that. It's a gig. Mm-hmm. And I think that's quite cool. Make, 20, 30 quid and say, cool, thanks. I'll just earn my Chinese or something. Yeah. That could be done. So I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not.
Not sure it is either. I think if you work over a certain number of hours, maybe something like that would make sense, because if you're basically working full time, then maybe, because at that point, if that person does get sick, they're getting no support from anywhere. And if they're sick because they're working so hard, then to some degree, their employer should take some responsibility of that. So I think that would be all right. But if it prevents people from taking the positive side of the gig economy, then that seems
kind of... As an argument against the idea of working too hard, the gig workers do what they want. Effectively, they are independent contractors. You don't have to do this thing. Uber's not saying you need to work X amount.
No, sure. But what I mean is, if I am working 40 hours a week, and just because I'm working hard, I get sick because I've got more people in the car with me. I get sick because I'm doing my job and I'm doing a lot of it. Then I think there should be some support, at least from I'm sick that day and I earn nothing. Okay, one day might not kill me, but if I'm sick for a week or 2 weeks, and I get no support from anywhere, then that's a problem. But again, only for people that are working enough hours, I would say, to qualify.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one because then it's your choice to do that. So I think when it's your choice, maybe it's your choice to also get loss of income insurance to cover yourself in those times. You can do that. Yeah. Or, for example, if you say that threshold is 32 hours, if you work more than 32 hours, you're classed as an employee. Then Uber will say you can only work 32 hours. That's the limit. And that's what they'll do.
Obviously, not where they can set it. As in, if it was like you said, I can choose to work as much as I want, that's fine. Then the employee gets to choose how much they work, and the employer accepts if they work more than 32 hours, then they do get some rights.
Yeah, it's just a hard one because an Uber driver might go driving on weekends where it's good money. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they might do Deliveroo, deliver some stuff. They might do Uber again on Thursday. And I think that freedom to pick a gig up is really, really good. Yeah. And if I were to work 60 hours doing gigs, so be it. That's my choice. And I think it's dangerous to say I should be covered by an employer's regulation because that then increases the prices. Ubers are cheap. Deliveroo is cheap.
Yeah.
Once the employees, it's no longer cheap. You now have to cover a lot more things.
Maybe the insurance thing would be a suitable alternative. It's just
maybe give them free income loss insurance or something.
Yeah. Or at least discount.
Liability insurance.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, maybe. And the final piece of news I have, which is not really a new piece of news, it's just an interesting article from Wired talking about Mr. Elon Musk and his journey to Mars, one explosion at a time. And it's really cool. It's a really cool article talking about his journey. And effectively, at the beginning, when a rocket exploded, he was almost on his knees in the companies, and he could have literally gone broke and lost everything. And an extra another fail afterwards, or anything that goes wrong, that could be it.
Yeah.
Which since 2008, he's taken that so far to where he is now. And I think now it's kind of got to the point where SpaceX can now afford to fail. And now it can afford to learn lessons quickly. How many rocket launches does it do a year these days?
Well, I'll tell you that in a bit, Craig.
Ooh, okay. Well, this is my segue piece. So Elon Musk, SpaceX doing good. What's today's topic, Ross?
Somewhere between segue and stepping on, but okay. Right.
Sorry.
That's right. So yes, the one last week when I failed to do the episode, one of the things that we did do is that we watched the Mars Perseverance landing live. Well, as live as you can when the thing is several thousand miles away, even millions of miles away, not quite sure. 20 minutes behind, weren't we? That was a weird thing in itself. We were watching it live, but everything that we saw had already happened 20 minutes ago. So even when it did successfully,
spoiler.
We hadn't watched it yet. Spoiler alert. It landed. It already landed 20 minutes before we just first anyone knew about it. So, and it got me thinking about how far we've come. As you said, when Elon started SpaceX, in the beginning, I think they had 3 crashes in a row, and they managed to just about scramble enough money together for a 4th. And with parts of money, they managed to get the 4th one to go up. And if that one blew up, as far as Elon was concerned, that was probably going to be it. All done, game over. So I wanted to go through a little bit of the story of not at that time, but moving a bit further forward into 2015. The Falcon 9 rocket left Cape Canaveral. It went up, it flew, got itself up into orbit, then came back to Earth and landed for the first time that any rocket had ever landed again, because obviously normally they just let them burn up in the atmosphere, but SpaceX had this idea of going, well, hold on a second, what we don't people in planes and then blow up the plane when we get to the end. We turn it around, we use it. So they spent all this time and money trying to get the rocket to land, and then obviously when it was due to happen, everyone was watching to see what would happen. So I've got a little video which I'll pull up here for you because it's all good fun to watch. Now the thing about the first video is that the cameras obviously they didn't bother too much with the cameras because they weren't necessarily expecting it to go well. So the first one's not particularly great, but it just gives you also an idea of how far we've come. in that short time frame. So I'm going to need some sound for this because you need the sound to kind of appreciate it a little bit more. But so I'll just share the screen for you. 1 second. So that's it coming down.
LZ1, the Falcon has landed. Landing operators moving to procedure 11.100, section 3 on LZ1 VNet, recovery net.
Right, so that's the first time it ever happened. And Elon was outside before the rocket refired again. He was outside looking up at the sky, going, "Oh no, this is bad," because he thought he was just going to drop out of the sky and just smash into the ground. And then it did fire, and then all you can see in the darkness is just this big ball of flame. Thinking, what's going to happen with this thing? Is it going to land? And then the dust settles, and then you stood there, and it hasn't fallen over. It's not blown up. And then everyone goes absolutely crazy. But so that was cool. I just need to stop the share a second. That was 2015. And then in 2018, we hit a new milestone. The Falcon 9 had been replaced with a larger rocket called the Falcon Heavy. And this one had, by this time we got the camera situation sorted. So we got multiple cameras with different views of both separation from above, and also you got cameras pointed down at the fins. You got cameras on the ground waiting for it to arrive. So this time they're trying to land. So the Falcon Heavy is much bigger. It's got 2 boosters, not the one like the Falcon 9. And they are attempting to not just land them, but to land them on Cape Canaveral's bays basically at the same time, which is just a crazy thought. You've got these 2 boosters that go up into space and they come back and they're trying to try and land them at exactly the same time in exactly pretty much the same place. And like every time I watch this, I get like some weird emotional response to it, which I can't even explain. It's just the most awesome thing ever. If you haven't seen it, well, I'm going to play it to you now so you can enjoy it. Okay, so they got chanting. It's about to land. The burns have started, and you're just like, okay, what's going on? I can't. And then you get this image, the 2 of them at the same time, and then.
The Falcons have landed.
Okay, so I mean, the first time I watched that, and if you got the chance to watch the full version, just the noise of everyone's in the obviously got your what do you call it, mission control, and you got everyone basically around the outside, and they're all watching it, and then it's just. I mean, I'm not sure I gave it quite justice, but the noise, the absolute noise of people just losing their absolute beep over watching these 2 things land, just incredible to see. So yeah, that was 2018, and you heard at the end of that little clip that they were talking about the 3rd booster. Now the 3rd boost did not land. We had to wait until April 2019 before they managed to land not just the 2 boosters that you just saw, but also the 3rd booster. Now the 3rd booster, it just seems crazy. The 3rd booster lands on a port, a floating port called Of Course I Still Love You, and it was just basically just a pad floating in the sea. This thing, you got the 2 boosters that take the first. Second stage to orbit. That second stage then goes on with the 3rd booster that's still attached. That goes off to get to it where it needs to be, and that 3rd booster is now a long way away from the launch pad, so it can't go back all the way because it would need to be even bigger in order to have enough fuel to get it not just up but also to get it back. So to save the needing to put more fuel in it, they make it land in the middle of the sea. But now you've got this tall, multiple story high building basically falling out the sky, needing to land on a floating pad in the sea. And when it does it, you're just like, it's just ridiculous. It's just insane that anyone can even ever. I mean, it's not being driven. It's just computers figuring out how to land in the middle of the ocean. It's nuts. Anyway, as you can see, this stuff blows me away a little bit. So that was 2019, April 2019. We had finally landed everything. We'd finally got everything that to make it reusable. We've got it all up and we've got it all back. So 2020, infamous 2020. SpaceX launched 26 missions in 2020. So, we're going from doing like one one like 50 years ago, and then like a massive gap, and then not many in between. And then now in 2020, or last year, we did 26 missions, of which there were 40 of those successful on-land landings. 40 successful landings. And they also worked with NASA in November to launch 4 astronauts into space to get them to the International Space Station. So, and that's a whole new level. When you've now got people on board, it's one thing to have a computer blow up in the middle of the sky, but to have people on board requires a level of trust in your own system to do that. Probably what I partnered with NASA, just in case, because NASA's had it's a fair run of deaths by rocket. So in 2021, SpaceX are continuing, but now we've not moved away. We're still doing lots of launches like the Falcon Heavy ones, which are basically taking up lots of satellites, which we'll come back to later. And we've done the People one, but now they are moving on to their next big rocket, which is going to be the Starship. So we have had multiple iterations of that, and the most possibly well-known ones are SN8, or Starship serial number 8, and 9. And if I can try and pull this one up as well, both of which have achieved maneuvers that no one's ever seen before. It does a horizontal. Have you seen this, Craig? It does a horizontal fall out of space, and then near the base, near the landing pad, it then does a flip to go from literally just a falling hump of metal, and then the rocket reignites, and you watch it do that in real time. Obviously, for those at home, basically it goes from a horizontal to a vertical rocket whilst falling.
I haven't seen that.
No, okay. Well, I should find it because it is amazing. So obviously, I mean, I've watched Mandalorian. I've watched many space-based sci-fi thingies where rockets take off and land all the time, and it seems perfectly normal. But when you see the thing actually do it for real life, I don't know why, but it does. It blows you away. So let me see if I can find you SN9.
I mean, while you do, even the twin boosters landing at the same time, I mean, that's already a sci-fi wet dream. That type of stuff, that we're at that level already.
Yeah.
And he's calling stuff starships. You can see where he wants to go with this. It's just amazing.
So this is SN9. I believe that next to it is SN10, ready and waiting to go up for its flight. We'll just skip to the cool parts. Thinking that this is the one where it does actually take off.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I think the fact that they launched it right next to the other one as well is like, do they not care? Like,
that's how confident they are.
So this thing has got 3 Merlin engines, I believe, all basically pointing in the same place, unlike the other ones they've had before, which are like actual boosters. This is just one rocket, right? So it's got its weird little fins going on as well. Those fins are important for when it's doing its little weird maneuver later on. So what they do is they launch it up into the air and then they turn off one rocket at a time. I think they're just doing that just to check what what thrust each one's giving. So they start with 3, then they go down to 2, then they go down to 1. And eventually they turn that one off as well. Just order on a little bit. So this point, I think we're down to 1. So it gets down to the point where there's not enough thrust on the booster. It's basically hovering effectively because it's not enough thrust to go any further up.
Altitude. Engine number 3 shut down on time as planned. We're continuing to climb on 2 engines. Everything continues to go well with Starship. Good engine performance so far.
Okay, so fast forward a bit further forward. I want to see
falling now.
If it is, it's falling slowly, as in it's still got a rocket we're going.
T plus 4 minutes. Vehicle is at 10 kilometers. It is at apogee. We're continuing to throttle down engine number 1 to hold altitude.
Yeah, so basically he's hovering at this point.
We're preparing for handover on the propellant tank.
I mean, that looks scary in itself, doesn't it? I mean, like, should it be doing that?
4.5 minutes. We are handing off to the LOX tank. We are
right, and then look,
to flip to horizontal.
And you just think, oh god,
cloud, the plume you were
oh
seeing
god,
was
that can't be good.
A liquid oxygen dump.
Is this thing
We've
just?
now transitioned to horizontal and beginning the subsonic.
It just looks like something fall out of the sky. It does not look healthy at all.
The forward flaps. The vehicle stability.
But those flaps make it more stable, and then it starts thinking, you okay, all right, fine, maybe they know what they're doing. But I'm still wondering to myself, how fast is this thing falling? Like, and what is underneath? Yeah. What is underneath it right now? Is SN10 underneath it?
I like how they haven't bothered to paint it as well. Just in case.
Oh yeah, I mean, literally they make these things in like 2 weeks or something.
T plus 5.5 minutes. Starship continuing the subsonic descent, using the forward and aft flaps to control its attitude as we come back down to the landing pad. Everything continues well in this portion of flight.
Yeah, so what are they simulating? They're simulating an accident type of thing.
No,
can they recover?
Simulating it coming back down, ultimately. Well, they're doing multiple tests at the same time. One of them is to see what would happen if the engines... But at this point, they're trying to land it.
Right.
So
it's using the wings to essentially fly back to where it came
10 seconds
from.
Into flight, we're down beneath 1.5 kilometers. We're preparing to restart 2 engines.
So they're going to start the engine in a minute and try and get the rocket back into
for the landing burn.
A rocket position. They get it. This is incredible. Except it didn't go quite right, and boom. I wonder if it's a surprise that SN10, the what sat next to it, in its test yesterday or day before, the engine seems to be a bit dodgy. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the fact that it was next to it when it blew up. Who knows? But that move that you just saw,
bit of shrapnel.
And if anything, SN8 kind of did the job slightly better. But the angle of that camera angle, just watching it go.
As you can see from the scene, we had again another great flight up to the 10-kilometer apogee.
Obviously, the news all over that is going, oh no, SpaceX have screwed up again, another blow up. But they're literally they farm these things out in a couple of weeks, try something different, send it up. It's incredible.
Yeah, they are too big to fail, I think, these days. Which is the amount of stuff they must have learned from this would be amazing.
Well, yeah. The data they've got on these things now is awesome. Right, so that's what SpaceX is doing, but obviously there are other people in the world. So we've also got Jeff Bezos, who's never far, but usually behind. his company, Blue Origin, which has been quietly pushing forward with their mission to build what they call a road to space for our children to walk. So like SpaceX, they are focusing on reusability, which makes sense. But they seem to be going about it in a more sort of, well, it's a slow and steady thing, and they're focusing more on passengers. So they had a test last month of their new Shepherd, which is a 6-seater crew capsule. So rocket takes off, flies around for a little bit, hovers a bit, comes back down, uses 3 parachutes to make it land softly on the ground. I mean, I still thought it kicked up quite a bit of dust for someone that landed softly, but right. So their larger rocket is the New Glenn, which is a bit more like SpaceX's Falcon Heavy in the sense that it's an orbital rocket. It's designed to get satellites up into space. And supposedly it's got the largest payload of all rockets ever made. Whether that will still be true by the time it actually gets there is another question. But they're focusing on that stuff. And then you've also got Virgin Galactic, who are in a similar vein, focusing on the people side of things, but they're not trying to be a transit of satellites. They're going for the commercial tourist who just wants to go up and feel what it's like to be in space and weightless and that sort of stuff. So they've made what is a very cool looking rocket. The only thing not cool about it is their somewhat Ron Seal title. It's called SpaceShipTwo.
Oh, how original.
Following Spaceship One. But it's a cool plane, and it's basically it's just a weird looking plane with portholes around the full sort of circumference of the cabin, so that you've got a sort of immersive experience. So when you go up there and you're in space, you can look above you, you can look below you, you can look all the way around. And it is a very, very cool looking plane. And I'll put up another little short video so you can see what that looks like. Because, you know, that is something that's going to have to be at least on most people's bucket list at some point.
Oh, definitely.
Just the ability to go, oh, yeah, well, I'd say I've been to space. I've flown about. It was fun. We've done.
Did they name it the whole dad joke thing where Spaceship One, Spaceship Two, because if one blows up, they still got 2. Is it that whole thing?
I don't know. I don't know what possible reason they have for such a dull title. So here it is. Look, here's your cabin. Yeah, so we've got like our cool little seats, which I think can be folded away or something, so that you've got more space to float about in the cabin. Let's watch the little, not all of it, because obviously the reveal in 10 minutes. No, we're not watching that.
Challenge to make sure that not only did we continue in that tradition,
there he is.
Way that was
there he is.
With the scale and the nature of what
the old
doing.
bugger. So this is the plane.
The very first thing that we did as a company when we started out was we talked to our customers about.
I actually want you to talk.
Dynamic and enhances comfort during each stage.
Yeah.
When you
shows some stuff. It's very Apple.
To maximize cabin space for you to enjoy weightlessness, and it remains reclined during re-entry, so we direct and optimize G-forces without detracting from the thrill of the ride. We've provided each astronaut with their own personal digital display within the seat backs. The display gives us the opportunity to share live flight data with you.
Because that's what you want to do. When you go into space, you want to spend the entire time looking at a screen. Look out the damn window.
Yeah. Those screens don't work though, because if the guy in front of you reclines, then you can't see his screen anymore.
Just ensure that perfect fit.
Well, you'd hope they thought of that, but
we also worked.
Yeah, we get the idea. And there's another video of the woman who's taken up to test it, and like basically her just sort of like floating around the cabin going. Literally,
I mean,
every clip is her with her mouth open so wide that you could throw things in it.
Is there any hint of what the ticket price will be? I've heard them to be around $100,000, maybe $200,000.
How much will a Virgin Galactic ticket be?
Top one, there's a hefty price tag of 250,000.
Yeah. I'm expecting that to go down pretty quickly, but probably not to the less than 1,000 area. I mean, it's still gonna be like, you know.
No, I think if 50 grand, I think 50 grand. Yeah. Oh, looking forward to that in a couple of years then.
Well, one hopes. Right, so we've got all this stuff with rockets and all that sort of stuff going on, but meanwhile, we've also had in the last couple of weeks, we've also had the United Emirates even launching their Hope probe, which has already started to return pictures, which I can pull up for you. There you go. Crazy to get to see that one, but you'll get to see that one in the post edit. And I'm only not doing it because, well, we watched the live thingy, so you've already seen it, you know what that's. This was followed then by the Chinese probe, and that one's got a video out of it kind of scanning over the planet. Although to be honest, it didn't seem like a very good. Couldn't even tell it was a red planet. It was bright. It was so bright you couldn't see it anything. And then of course, taking it up a notch, or 17,000. We had the arrival of Perseverance, and we've had panoramics from the rover. Have you seen the panoramic of the rover from the rover?
Not a panoramic, no.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see what we can put up for you on this one. The panorama from.
Oh, that's cool.
I always think it. I mean, like, because now it feels real, doesn't it? Now you feel like, okay, well, that
full HD as well.
Yeah, that is what. That's where I landed. That's where I pushed all this dust out of the way as I got on the ground, and that is the scene on Mars, pretty much right now. Mental.
I mean, it's incredibly exciting to think that Perseverance's mission aim is to find signs potentially of life and collect soil samples, etc., and all that type of stuff. So there's good suggestion that life has been on Mars in the past, and billions of years ago, Mars was quite similar to an early Earth. Yeah. But for some reason, lost its atmosphere. But it'd be great to find out if any of that's true, if there are signs of life ever been there, and hopefully Perseverance is the rover can do for us.
Well, I think the thing that stands out for me is when you look at that picture, that panoramic, is just how normal it looks. Like how it's a different planet, but it kind of looks like a lot of ours. I know we all knew that before, but just seeing it does make me think, wow, okay, it's just somewhere in Nevada.
I'm sure that's what a conspiracy is. That's just in the Utah desert. I've seen that before.
That's right. So the point is that in 6 years, we have gone from getting a handle on how to build a rocket, how to land a rocket, reuse it. To land a booster, to reuse that booster. We've managed to get little robots onto a planet, all sent without any people, autonomously, so that we can now drive around in a little car on Mars, so it can take photos, videos, so that we can control the thing from here. We are now in the process of trying to get a single Starship Type 1 rocket to launch, fly around, land, refuel, go again. Probably within the next year or two, we will have an actual Starship, and people will be paying to go and at least float around in space on something like Virgin Galactic's rocket, if not actually using it for travel, possibly even on this planet. That's not a huge stretch within the next 5 years or so that normal people, albeit affluent people, business people, whatever, may start using a Starship to get to a meeting in Australia and back. So I wanted to sort of just kind of, as you know, I do investments. So it's, I guess, some reason partly I'm thinking about that, but also I'm just thinking of, I can't quite work out, or I'm enjoying conjecturing how this changes the world when you've got to a point where you can just, where space travel isn't a thing that is only done by scientists, where it becomes something that normal people can do. What do you do with that? Like, how does that change our life? Does that mean that we go to the moon for stuff? Are we mining the moon now? And if so, what does that change for Earth? Or just the fact that all these rockets are going up and they are littering our orbit with satellites, and those satellites are producing internet like Starlink. That's probably a more real effect because now we've got internet everywhere, literally every part of the world. What does that do to change things? Because on a basic level, it changes the commerce of the world. So the poorer countries will have more opportunity because they'll be able to use the internet to make have a bigger impact. If they combine that with 5G or whatever, you've got then countries going, oh, we're going to pioneer on 5G technology, and maybe we can build our own thing out of based off that. So it might just make everybody closer because you're now going to get more a day in the life of someone in Outer Mongolia. I don't know, maybe. What else does that change? Is it literally going to do nothing other than have more people living in an RV with their own YouTube channel, going around off grid? Is that what it's going to do? Is it going to make the human population spread out a bit more? Is the fact that because we can't live out, so you've got this already changing culture where we don't have to go to work because we can do it on Zoom. That's already changing. You're already working remotely for a company in America. That's becoming more and more normal. At what point do we go, well, actually, I can live anywhere, even somewhere slightly more out in the sticks that I couldn't have done before? Does the internet alone give me that? It might do if it's coupled with, Amazon deliveries from flipping drones. Then maybe I can now get my food delivery parcel in the middle of the forest or something. But all of these, just being able to do that, just being able to build a rocket, put things into space, will potentially change everything. Because at that point, we might even start putting people on Mars. Obviously, that's a bit further ahead away, but at that point, we become a multi-planetary species. That changes the whole concept, the culture of who we are, whether we actually the planet. So what are your thoughts? How does that change us? And I appreciate that's quite a big question, and I probably should have prepped you a bit more. You have an answer.
It's a very big question. Yeah, I mean, for me, my main drive is freedom. So I love the fact that we can get off the grid. We can just go buy a forest and live in it, and that's possible with stuff like Starlink. Because as you say, I work remotely. So should I take my laptop anywhere? I can get internet access. I can continue to do my job. And it doesn't really matter where I am and what I'm doing. So I could have a little hut in a forest in the middle of nowhere with Starlink and a laptop and be doing exactly the same what I'm doing now.
You could.
I could be a hell of a lot happier too. Who knows? But I think given that choice, that freedom, that's what that enables. And as you say about poorer countries, they get that choice too. It's not just a westernized thing. It's an entirely world thing. And the internet being a human right, who knows? Maybe governments will subsidize Starlink and it'll just be free for everyone. Maybe that'd be a cool figure. It'd be a UN thing.
But I'm trying to remember what life was like before I had the internet myself. What did it enable me to do? And that's even hard in itself because it's like, well,
it is.
It wasn't like it was that long ago, really. But all I can think of is just access to goods and services that you couldn't get before. I mean, yes, okay, I can use social media and stuff, and that changes the culture a little bit. But
these are all new. These are like within the last 5 years.
yeah, but I don't know. I think really all it does is it obviously people got access to the internet. I'm sure they already do. So access to information, it's not so much that they're going to get information because they will probably had enough internet to get it before, but the fact that it's so easy to get and you can watch YouTube videos which explain how to do things. I do think on some level it fast forwards general innovation. Even within people's houses, they start to learn about things that they didn't know existed before because you can now consume hours and hours of YouTube videos or whatever, which, before we were probably a bit more selective about what we used it for, like, send an email, an important email. When you've got that much and you can just stream stuff, you end up being privy to information you didn't have before, and that changes what you shop, what you do. But none of those seem particularly meaningful.
I mean, generally everything is going to get better. I think that's kind of the problem as well, that we live in an ever-increasing better society, and things are getting better every single year based on Moore's law, that everything improves exponentially. And I think we're just completely used to it. Like, yeah, social media, we've already got to the point where we've realized that's toxic. It's only really been around since 2008. I mean, 13 years old? It's not even a teenager, barely. Yeah. And we already decided, we shouldn't really be doing that stuff. It's a bit toxic.
Yeah.
Kind
of funny, really.
So that's nothing in the time
I was
period.
there when it was like ASL was the most commonly typed phrase. Do you even know what that means?
Yeah. Well, age sex location.
Yes.
I also use AOL. You're not that much older than me.
Well, yeah. But yeah, the chat rooms of old. You had no idea who the hell we were talking to. The first thing you do is ASL. Who are you?
But yeah, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where everyone didn't realize that the internet was full of pedophiles, and you could do stuff like ASL. And assume when someone says they're 16, female, it's like,
that's the point. ASL is now offensive. Like, I don't identify as either S, actually.
Oh, that's a deep subject. Let's not touch that one.
Okay, fine. We don't want to lose any viewers, do we?
Anyway. But yeah, I mean, the fact that stuff's changed so drastic, and I mean, the internet had a birthday recently of being 30 years old, I think.
Right.
And I mean, it's nothing, absolutely nothing. Like, we're older than the internet, which is mad to think that in primary school, at least, we had to find all our information, in books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no control F in a book. So it's kind of like, you have to read the thing. Which maybe we were the last generation that had to actually use analog technology. And the new generations, like my kids at least, definitely, like your kids as well, is digital. Like, analog isn't a thing. But I think our kids, they'll be gone.
Given that we both went into computers, we were probably the first generation to have access to things that we would never have known about had it not been for them. So we probably, like my parents would have been affected by not having that access to that information. Because they only knew the jobs, to some weird degree, they only knew the jobs that their parents would have taught them about, I think. Or you could do this, or you could do that. Whereas we could go, well, actually, it can be anything I want. And there's people that do this, and there's people that do that, and I've got access to all of that. So, yeah, culturally, I think it will change, but I don't know whether I can't think what we will do differently necessarily. As in, the people that have already had the internet will probably not be affected too much by everybody else getting it.
No, I think it's the freedom, and with freedom, I think comes a good general mental health. I think what a lot of people have been stuck in houses this year has shown is next year we're probably going to have a mental health crisis. So the idea of having internet anywhere that I can I can walk anywhere with my laptop, sit down, do my job.
Yeah.
And that is freedom, assuming it's not raining, of course. which he always does.
Of course, although come on with a waterproof laptop already. Come on.
Laptop, Starlink, yeah. Get on it, Musk.
I think maybe that'll be the biggest change for me. I already like the idea of living off grid, but the internet is. I mean, I know some people that they live in their vans or they live on boats or whatever, and they have to literally move to a location if they want to use the internet, because they want to get a decent enough signal. Then they will have to move to a particular location, because obviously most of the time they're out somewhere that doesn't have a very good one. And the fact that will end, the fact that they can go anywhere, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Make it more accessible. I mean, I would consider it then as a lifestyle, whereas at the moment I'd be like, I don't know, no internet, like maybe days on end. Doesn't sound great. I don't know how I would do.
I mean, there's a life we've talked about before about becoming a digital nomad. The idea of just travel the world, backpacking a laptop, that's all you need. And the fact that you could have a tiny little USB key or something that is a Wi-Fi dongle for Starlink. Take that with you. Doesn't matter where you go, you've got it. You got full fiber internet at your fingertips, on your phone as well, because you won't need to roam anymore. And I mean, that's it. You're a digital nomad. Go live, work wherever you want. Absolute remote desert, middle of Iceland, whatever. You're going to be all right. I think that's just amazingly free.
Cool. Well, on that note, I'm going to go and dream about being a digital nomad. Not quite sure what my son's going to do, but we'll figure that problem out there. Right. Well, I must remember to remind you all to think, educate, and act. And we will see you possibly for some budget conversation next week.
Yeah, I have all the fun ones. That's
you do indeed.
Next week.
Right.